Right now, we are at a situation where American crocodiles were endangered as recently as 15 or 16 years ago in 2007. They are now, guys, endangered.
For much of modern history, the American crocodile has been one of Florida's quiet conservation successes. As recently as the early 2000s, the species hovered on the edge of extinction in the United States. Decades of habitat protection, careful monitoring, and legal safeguards slowly brought it back from the brink. By the late 2010s, the population had stabilized enough that biologists began speaking cautiously of recovery. Then, without warning, the crocodiles started disappearing. It did not happen all at once. There was no dramatic die-off, no single event that drew immediate attention. Instead, experienced Everglades rangers and veteran airboat operators began noticing subtle changes. Familiar basking sites went empty. Dominant adult crocodiles, animals that had controlled the same stretches of mangrove and canal for years, were simply gone. No bodies were found. No signs of struggle were visible. The top predators of the swamp had vanished without a trace. That alone was disturbing. In Florida's ecosystems, adult crocodiles have no natural predators. Juveniles may fall prey to birds or fish, but a fully grown crocodile sits at the absolute top of the food chain. When such animals begin to disappear, biologists are trained to ask a single question first. If an apex predator is retreating, what is it retreating from? To understand why the situation escalated so quickly, it is necessary to understand the setting. The Florida Everglades, often called the River of Grass, is a slow-moving mosaic of sawgrass marshes, mangrove forests, canals, and estuaries. It is a landscape defined by subtle boundaries. For millions of years, those boundaries allowed two massive reptiles to coexist without constant conflict. The American alligator dominates freshwater. It is robust, adaptable, and aggressive when challenged. The American crocodile occupies brackish and saltwater environments, particularly coastal mangroves and estuaries. While similar in appearance, their behaviors differ sharply. Alligators assert dominance openly. Crocodiles are evasive, reclusive, and typically avoid human contact whenever possible. That distinction matters. Despite their fearsome reputation, there has never been a confirmed fatal attack by an American crocodile on a human in the wild in U.S. history. These animals do not see people as prey. For decades, the balance held. Alligators and crocodiles respected ecological boundaries, and the Everglades functioned as nature intended. In 2009, that balance began to fracture. The first warning signs were easy to dismiss. Rangers assumed relocated crocodiles had simply moved to new territory. But when the same prime nesting and basking sites remained abandoned for months, concern grew. Then came the first physical evidence: partial remains of large reptiles found in canals and remote mangrove corridors. These were not juveniles, they were dominant adults. The injuries did not resemble territorial fights. There were no crushed rib cages, no constriction marks, no signs of prolonged struggle. In some cases, carcasses appeared almost surgically dispatched. In others, they were simply missing altogether. Adding to the unease was a sudden change in the soundscape of the swamp. Breeding areas that should have been alive with movement and noise fell silent. Crocodile nurseries, estuaries once crowded with young, were empty. For biologists, that silence was the most alarming signal of all. At the same time, reports of aggressive crocodile behavior toward humans began to surface. Fishermen described animals snapping at boats. Residents reported crocodiles holding their ground instead of retreating. This was completely out of character for the native species. Something was forcing behavioral change at the very top of the ecosystem. Public attention quickly turned to Florida's most notorious invasive species, the Burmese python. The suspicion made sense. Pythons had already devastated mammal populations across the Everglades. eliminating raccoons, opossums, and even deer in some regions. A widely publicized 2005 incident in which a python ruptured while attempting to swallow a 6-foot alligator had cemented the snake's reputation as a threat to large reptiles. As python populations expanded into mangrove habitats, many assumed the snakes had escalated their targets. The evidence did not support that theory. Forensic analysis ruled out python predation. Pythons kill by constriction, leaving clear signs of crushing and suffocation. The missing crocodiles showed no such injuries. Whatever was killing or displacing them was using a different strategy, and doing so efficiently. The investigation took a decisive turn near Miami. Researchers from the University of Florida's herpetology program captured a young crocodile in a densely populated urban canal, far outside known American crocodile territory. The location alone raised red flags. When scientists examined the animal closely, their concern deepened. At first glance, it looked almost right, but subtle details stood out. The snout was broader and heavier than expected. The coloration was darker, an olive-black tone rather than the native gray-green. Most unsettling was its behavior. Even as a juvenile, it displayed extreme aggression and boldness, lunging repeatedly during handling in a way rarely seen even in adult American crocodiles. Initial theories ranged from genetic mutation to hybridization with alligators. None fully explained the animal's characteristics. Tissue samples were sent for DNA analysis, and researchers waited. During that wait, more reports came in. Additional crocodiles with similar traits were observed across South Florida. Growth rates appeared abnormally fast, up to 28% higher than native crocodiles of the same age. These animals were not merely surviving, they were thriving. When the DNA results arrived, they removed all doubt. The crocodiles were not American crocodiles, they were not hybrids. They were Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, one of the most dangerous apex predators on Earth. The implications were staggering. The Nile crocodile is responsible for an estimated 50 to 200 human deaths each year across Africa. Unlike the American crocodile, it routinely preys on large mammals and does not avoid humans. It grows larger, matures faster, and exhibits far greater aggression. Adults can exceed 18 feet in length, weigh over a ton, and deliver one of the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom. The disappearance of Florida's native crocodiles was no longer a mystery. They were being outcompeted and possibly preyed upon by a superior predator introduced from across the ocean. Nile crocodiles do not migrate across the Atlantic. Their presence in Florida could only have one explanation: human involvement. Investigators traced the source to the exotic pet trade. Despite strict regulations, Florida remains a global hub for illegal wildlife trafficking. Hatchling Nile crocodiles are small, manageable, and deceptively appealing to reckless collectors. When these animals grow rapidly into uncontrollable, lethal predators, they are often released into the wild rather than surrendered. Genetic testing revealed that the captured Nile crocodiles were closely related, indicating they likely originated from a small number of released hatchlings. One act of negligence had been enough to establish a breeding population. The danger extended beyond wildlife. Nile crocodiles tolerate colder temperatures better than many assume, meaning their potential range could extend far beyond South Florida. If allowed to spread, they could transform ecosystems and pose direct threats to human life in waterways long considered relatively safe. The response from Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission was immediate. Teams were deployed to locate and remove the invaders. Several Nile crocodiles were captured, but officials acknowledged a grim reality. Finding every individual in a vast, inaccessible wetland is extraordinarily difficult. Even a single breeding pair could restart the invasion. The broader context made the situation even darker. Native American crocodiles were already under pressure from habitat loss. Coastal mangroves have been replaced by development. Water flow through the Everglades has been altered by agriculture, introducing pollution and stress. Conservation efforts stabilized the species but left it vulnerable. The introduction of a hyper-aggressive super predator delivered the final blow. What emerged from the investigation was a sobering conclusion. The Nile crocodile was not the true villain. It was a biological weapon introduced through human carelessness. Florida's history of invasive species, from pythons to iguanas, follows the same pattern. Desire, greed, and negligence open the door. The ecosystem pays the price. If Nile crocodiles establish a permanent population, Florida will be forced to rewrite its relationship with its wetlands. Warning signs will no longer caution visitors simply not to feed wildlife. They will have to acknowledge the presence of predators that actively hunt humans. Tourism, conservation budgets, and public safety policies would all change fundamentally. The solution is brutal and unavoidable. Eradication programs mean lethal removal. There is no relocation option. No humane compromise that preserves both public safety and ecological balance. A war would be declared on an apex predator, one that never belonged there. For years, the disappearance of crocodiles was blamed on snakes. That explanation was easier to accept. The truth is far more uncomfortable. The Everglades are not being destroyed by monsters from the wild. They are being dismantled by human choices, and the creatures now paying the price are only following their nature.
Most concentrated nesting areas for American crocodiles in Florida and the United States.
The search is on this morning for an emotional support.